Well, howdy there, folks. How's it going today? I hope everybody's doing really good. Well, in yesterday's video, I was removing the fretboard off this neck that goes to the arch top guitar I'm working on. And I did get a truss rod installed. I just got a piece of tape over it here. But, however, I did lose the footage of the installation process. My apologies. That does happen sometimes. I'm usually pretty good about that stuff, but I deleted it and emptied out the trash can in my camera by accident, and I lost the footage, so I guess there's not much I can do about it now. Pretty basic, though. I just set the neck up on the bench so it was level. Then I built a jig on each side of it in the same elevation, and just made a stop on one side so I could use a trim router to ride up against the stop and cut the channel. Now, this is a dual action truss rod. You don't need a U-shaped trough for it or anything like that. You actually just want it to sit down in there tight, and you can adjust it both ways. So pretty simple procedure, nothing too complicated. I do recommend using a router. If you don't have one, I suppose you could chisel it out by hand if you wanted to do that. I mean, anything's possible. You probably could have done that with this. This is a really soft wood this neck is made out of, so it didn't take a lot of effort to get that channel routed out. So I'm getting ready to glue it back together. I did drill some index holes here so I could line things up, but it's got some pieces that are still stuck to the fretboard, and it really indexes itself and locks right in the exact same spot. So I'm going to put some glue on it. Now, you don't have to glue these truss rods in either. It's probably better that you don't. Just a word for the wise. And, I put a piece of tape over it. I'm going to leave the tape right there. You can peel it off too. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to leave it on top, and I've already dry run it with the clamps, and it clamps down as tight as it's going to get. So in any case, let's get some glue out, and we'll glue the fretboard back on. Okay, hide glue is the glue of choice today. Titebond works pretty good. I think that'll be fitting for this application. Okay, pretty generous amount here. I'm just spreading this out with a little wooden dowel here, and again, that's why I like leaving the tape on. I don't have to worry about it getting down in the truss rod cavity and binding things up. Alright, I think we're going to be pretty good right there. Like I said, you got to get enough glue. I mean, you don't need a bunch of overkill either. You're going to have to clean out the squeeze out, so use your judgment there. Okay, now some people will use surgical tape, surgical tubing, I should say, to do this. You can do it with clamps. There's a bunch of different ways to go about this. Where this locks on there pretty nice, and it's right in the spot that it used to be, I'm just going to use clamps. Okay, so I'm just using some cork padding on the back of the neck. The fretboard I'm not really worried about because I still have the frets in there, and it shouldn't dent that. I just want to make sure it's lined up. That feels pretty good right there. Both edges, make sure we got good amount of squeeze out. I think we're going to be in good shape. I'm just going to repeat the process and put a bunch more clamps on here, and that should take care of it. Okay, well, if you don't have any cork padding, you can use a piece of cardboard, piece of cloth, anything, just so it doesn't mar the back of your neck up. Cork padding works pretty sweet, though, and I buy drink coasters, actually, and that's what I do. I cut them up for clamps and whatnot. Okay, in case you're wondering how many clamps you should put on, that ought to answer your question. As many as you got. As many as you can fit on there. Now the dovetail is right here, so this extension just kind of hangs out over the body of the guitar. This is the most important section right here. So I will need to make a truss rod cover. I kind of went a little big on the opening, but you know, I want to make sure the wrench fits in there nice and you can operate the truss rod with ease. Well, I say with ease. There, I can, there it goes. So that fits really good right there. Now I just got it in its loose position, or what I like to call neutral. It doesn't take much movement to back bow or add forward bow with a dual truss rod. So, and we're gluing this fretboard. We don't want any tension on that whatsoever. So that's basically how I go about it in a nutshell, folks. The next thing I'm going to do, I'll make a truss rod cover for it, probably a new nut, and install some tuners on there. And after that, we can focus on the frets. I think I will refret this too. Not a huge fan of the fret wire that's in there, and it is worn pretty bad on the first few frets anyway, so I plan on playing this guitar. I'm going to keep it, and so I might as well put some new frets right in it. I was going to do that before I did this process, but I figured it'd be a safe bet, I should say, to wait until I get everything glued back together after I installed the truss rod. So, you know, some guys may disagree with what I'm doing, putting a truss rod in a 1930s arch top, but there was no reinforcement in here whatsoever. None. No steel rod, no truss rod, nothing. So, and it's a really soft wood. And, you know, you tune it up to pitch, you're going to have a ½ inch of relief in the middle of the neck. That's just how these were. They played terrible. So, you know, maybe not at first. I'm sure when they first built them, the action was decent, but you let that sit for a day or two, and it's going to bend the neck. Sometimes even faster than that. So anyway, we're going to have an adjustable truss rod set up. I'm pretty happy about that. And, you know, I won't have to monkey around with the guitar. I can just get it set up the way I want it to be set. Okie doke. Well, that's been sitting for about 24 hours, so I'm going to take the clamps off here, see what it looks like. Lots of clamps. Okay. Alright, I've put one clamp back on just so it can stand on its own here. The next thing I'm going to do is pull all the frets out. I'm going to refret the neck, and I'm going to put a set of tuners on it. So I got to make a truss rod cover. Now I've got that gouged out enough so you can get an Allen wrench straight in there. You don't have to, you know, jimmy it in on an angle or anything. I wanted to make sure of that, so everything come out pretty good. I mean, you can tell that, I guess you can tell it's been taken off before, but especially on this side, it's tight, but you know, these things will kind of shrink up on you when you remove them too, so they almost never come out perfect when you put them back on, so you have to do some sanding and, you know, adjusting, and you can get that pretty good anyway. So some people wouldn't even do that. As long as you don't feel it when you're playing it and it stays on there, who cares, right? Okie doke, I'm going to pull the frets out of this neck here. I'm going to refret this one, so I'm going to just pull them out cold. I'm not even heating them up, where I just glued the neck on. It's been a little over 24 hours, so I really don't want to put any more heat on there, so we're just going to pull these out cold. They're coming out nice and clean, so no worries. There is something I'm going to try. out on the end here where the fretboard extension is, it curls up quite a bit. So what I'm thinking about doing is putting some wide tang frets in here. That way it'll compress the wood and actually start to push it into a back bow, if you will, and hopefully straighten some of that out. If it doesn't, I've got a few other ideas that I'm going to try. Maybe with some heat and clamping and some moisture, I might be able to also get that to lay back down flat. It's really not a real big deal as far as playability. I mean, it's really tough to play up here anyway on that guitar where the body is not cut away. It's it's got rounded shoulders, so you're really not going to be playing up there too much. But what I don't want is I don't want this to be sticking up higher than the rest of the fretboard, because obviously the strings will hit and buzz. So I'm going to get it straightened out one way or the other. But first things first, we got to get these old frets out. Like I said, usually I'd heat these up first, but where I just glued that fretboard on yesterday, the day before I should say, I don't want to put any heat on there. I want to let that really take a good hold for another day or so at least. Now, high glue sets up pretty quick, but sometimes it can take 2 or 3 days. I like to wait at least 2 or 3 days. And that kind of guarantees me that it's cured and it's not going to come apart if I do introduce any heat. So just kind of skipping one step here by not heating these ones up. But again, sometimes they'll come right out, and a lot of times they're not glued in, so you don't have to use heat. But it's good practice nonetheless to put a little heat on, and especially if you don't know if the fret wire was glued in or not. I usually try one. I'll put the heat on the fret wire and pull the fret out, look for any residual glue or anything, and just kind of go from there. And sometimes even just the gunk from your fingers from playing this, or playing your guitar for many years, can also kind of glue them in, if you will. So it's not a bad idea to check it out. And just look and see you can look right at the tang and see if there's any residual glues or anything, even on each side of the fret slot. A lot of times you can see glue or the remnants of glue, but not always. That one does not want to come out very good. I hate prying up on them like that, but sometimes you have to just to get them started. There we go. All right, 2 more. Ooh, that one is really sunk in there good. Well, I might try it from the other direction here. All right. Well, there was one here that was being a little stubborn, but it wasn't as tough as the pliers, so there we go. Okay, so we'll put a straight edge on here. Now you can see how much this ramps up on the end out here. Now I can push it down, so that's a good sign. This doesn't get glued to the top of the guitar, it just hangs out over. but we got to get that pushed down somehow. And I'm not putting a ton of pressure on it, and I can move it. So I'm going to have to look around and see what I've got for fret wire. I'm thinking about putting medium fret wire in this. And I may have some wide tang medium width and height frets. So if that's the case, that's what I'm going to do, is put wide tang out here and just regular dimensions in the rest of the neck. Okay, well, I found enough fret wire in the cabinet, and I did have some wide tang fret wire. And this is all medium, except for from here out where the heel stops and the dovetail stops, and this fretboard extension hangs out over. I got enough wide tang fret wire to put in there. I'll probably press that in, and hopefully that will take care of some of that ramping right there, and it will kind of bend it back down. That would be helpful for sure. Okay, I'm going to just lay this stuff out in order. I've had to shift a couple around because they're already cut, so I got to use what I got to use here, and that's going to be good right there. I'll put the rest down on this side. Okay, I'm just prepping the fretboard here. I'm just using a razor blade like you'd use in your utility knife, and I'm just dragging it backwards through the fret slot. Now I know this is the right width because I use this medium fret wire all the time, so I finally figured out that this is the perfect width, and it does kind of clean out the slot where the tangs were, and just kind of pulls that stuff through there, and you can kind of tell if there's any glue or anything left over. Now, if you're using different fret wire, then you need to measure each slot, and also measure the tang of the fret wire you're going to install. Remember, if it goes in there too hard and you have to really wail on it to get it to seat down in there, it's going to spread the fretboard, and it'll start to grow, and it will actually form a back bow. And that's what I'm going to do actually up here on this tail end where the fretboard extension hangs out over. So this is kind of a hybrid fret job, if you will. Okay, so I'm just using a sanding sponge here. What I'm doing is trying to get rid of these little burrs, if you will. It's just where the wood gets raised up, where you pull the fret wire out, you can feel them sticking up. Now you want to get that off there, because if you don't, the fret's not going to seat down all the way to the fretboard. Now, as you can see, this is a painted fretboard, so I'm trying to be as careful as I can, and not trying to take any of that off, but if it happens, it happens. I got to make sure the frets seat down in there. That's the most important part. You can get these sanding sponges like at the depot or any retail store. They're for drywall. And if you push down just slightly, it'll actually conform to the radius. It works really well. You can buy a radius block with sandpaper in it, for different radiuses, but I find that this works really well. Okay, we're going to be using the fret press today too. I've got this in my drill press. It's got an 11-inch radius die in there, and I use this a lot when I do fret jobs. I don't always do it on camera because it's just kind of, monotonous, and it's just an extra step I got to take in the video process here, but I'm going to demonstrate it for you today nonetheless. Okie doke, let's get right to it. I got some tight bond here, hide glue. You can use any type of glue you want. You can use, even tight bond regular glue, yellow glue if you want. And you could put CA glue in after you press them in too. All kinds of different ways to go about it. I'm using hide glue just because I might be the guy that's refretting this the next time, more than likely. And I can just heat it up with a soldering iron. I know they'll come out easy. Okay, over to the fret press here. Now all I got to do is get that lined up on the fret. And there is a little concavity there, so it will lock onto the piece of fret wire. You'll know it's on there because you won't be able to turn it. Okay, now just a press. That's all she wrote. Yep, that's seated in there nice and tight. So, you don't have to do this. You can just pound them in with a fret hammer too. But, pressing them in is just a little extra guarantee. Okay, just some more of the same. I'm getting there though. I've got close to 10 put in here. I'm just making sure the ends are seating down in there real good too. Just a little quick thing about the press. Now, it comes with all these different dies right here. Okay, the different radiuses, and it says right on 17, 15. You got a 7 1/4. You got pretty much every radius you could ever run into, and it works pretty good. Like I said, it's a little more tedious. You have to keep pounding them in, then go into the press. You don't want to probably just press them in there on their own, but I suppose you could. If you could get it started in there by hand, you could probably just use the press to go the rest of the way. I don't mind tapping them in. It just takes a second, and I know they're going in there good. I usually just run about 5 hits across them. I start the ends down and then just go over them. And I might hit the ends an extra time too. I'll stick my fingernail under there, see if I can get it under there, and also do a good visual on it, make sure it's in there. Now, if you've done all your prep work right, you got the right slots, the right tang width and everything, you probably don't need to use a press. You can just tap them in. I've done it both ways multiple times, so, whatever works for you. I'm certainly not saying what I'm doing is the right way to do it, but I figured I'd at least demonstrate the ways that I know how to do it. And I've seen other people do it that way. All right. Some people don't glue their frets in either. I mean, I don't know if you guys can catch that, but I'm just trying to give you a close-up of what they look like here. Now, I may tap them down again. Okay, this is the last of the non-wide tang fret wire, I guess is the best way I can explain it. We'll be putting wide tang in from here out. And again, to try to get rid of this ski jump that's happening down here. All right, that's pretty handy. One thing you will notice about wide tang fret wire, it bends a lot harder than the normal stuff. Oh. These are a little tricky to get started because I'm trying to have the fret slot tight enough so it will start to expand here. Alright, well, that takes care of the frets. I got some cleanup to do here, but I'm going to put this off to the side and let it dry for at least 24 hours, and then I'll clip the ends off, file the ends down, do some fret dressing and leveling and crowning and all that fun stuff. I probably won't document that. I've got a lot of videos on that stuff already, so well, in all, this arch top's coming along pretty good. I'm gaining ground every day. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys real soon. Be good. Okie doke.